Hello, I was almost there. Let's try that again. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Uncut History. This is a weekly series here on Redoubt Productions, which I made weekly, a couple weeks ago? Yeah, a couple weeks ago. I turned into a weekly thing. And, well, this week, I do not have much of a topic. I mentioned last week's stream, I wasn't even sure if I was going to be live tonight, but, well, looks like I'm 99% not going to be live next week. So I figured I'll try to give you guys something and kind of just trying to think around what can I do? What can I do? So I figured, and I know I'm looking down not at my audience. I am horrible. I'm a horrible host. So I am going to I'm trying to make sure I'm live. I always have to make my check that I'm live. Okay, you can hear me echoing. Perfect. We're all good. We're all good. I had a crap. It was weird. I had a. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. So, what we're going to do tonight, I'm taking a little bit of inspiration from the last night's live stream I was on. I was invited, well, kind of forced my way in and with beer and alcohol. I'm like, you're going to let me on the stream, something like that. I was on a Drink with Crazy stream and we were shouting out indie offers and creators. So I kind of figured, I can use that here in the history community. So, what we're going to do tonight, we are going to shout out a couple preservation efforts occurring throughout the United States and one that's sort of US, sort of UK. It's kind of an international thing and bridges the two. You could probably see the three that we're talking about. They're in the thumbnail tonight. But without further ado, we are going to go through and let's see if I can share my screen without breaking everything. And if any of you folks are watching, just comment down below. How's everybody doing tonight? How is everybody doing tonight? I'm very busy at the moment. Once we're done doing this stream, I'm going to go to boring college work. Yeah. I apologize in advance. It's 80 degrees here in southwestern Pennsylvania in the middle of April. Not used to that. So don't have the air conditioning set up in our household yet. So windows are open. I'm located near a busy intersection. So if you hear some background noise, I apologize in advance. But I don't want to be sweating and passing out on live YouTube. I don't think none of you want that, do you? Okay, I'll stop procrastinating. Let's go. Let's hit this. We hit that thing. I'm going to share the screen and then it's going to share, right? It's going to do it. All right, here we go. All right, here we are, right into the thick of it. We are going to take a peek at the Sutro Tunnel. And, well, I've actually recovered this. I've covered this a few weeks ago. A few weeks. Oh, wow. You can see my brain's fried, folks. Long week, long week. I covered this tunnel a few years ago, one of my earlier videos. I believe it was called the Yellow Jacket Mine Fire and Sutro Tunnel. I think it's the name of the video. I should have linked it before I was making this video tonight. Anyways, this is located out in Nevada. And what the Sutro Tunnel is, it was a 4-mile long drainage tunnel. This was built in the thick of the Comstock Lode, where you had the various gold mines operated out in Nevada. Please tell me it was a gold mine. Please tell me it was a gold mine. Oh God, you could tell I had I didn't prep at all. I'm gonna go with gold mines. I think it was a gold mine. If not, it was definitely a copper mine. There was a mine of a caliber, some caliber in Nevada, and it was in the Comstock Lode. And what was happening was all these mines were having two issues: ventilation issues, and they were having flooding issues. Some of these mines were clocking in at 150 degrees Fahrenheit. That's how hot it was with all those men way down the tunnels with no ventilation. And when you're digging in ground, groundwater is going to seep out and flood your tunnelway. So they need to find a way to drain it and enter the Sutro Tunnel, which is named after Adolf Sutro. And essentially, this 4-mile long tunnel runs under these Nevada mountains and drains into a river near Carson City, if I'm not mistaken. I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm from Pennsylvania. The problem was the Sutro Tunnel took over 10 years to fully construct, and by the time it was finished, most of the mines had already gone bust. So it was a novel idea. It's an engineering marvel, little too late to be much use, but it was always an attraction for people to come out and see. However, of course, with the closure, the mines, the tunnel was closed up, and it actually still drains water out of the mines to this day. So it's still used. It is has some practical use. So there is a small group out near the Sutro Tunnel that own the property in the little town of Sutro that developed around it. And they're trying to preserve and stabilize the buildings. But what they've just started doing, they've started rebuilding the actual tunnel. Now, the end goal is not to build the entire tunnel, but rather, I think, just a few feet in or a couple hundred feet in so people can walk in and get a feeling of what the tunnel was like. We're actually going to play this little video here. Hopefully the audio shares. I was experimenting with that before I went on the stream, so let's see.
Of years had elapsed, a great volcanic convulsion took place, which brought up the propylite, or green stone, forming the mountains now surrounding Mount Davidson. Still one more geological period passed by, when yet another great convulsion rent the propylite country in twain and brought up the trachytic mountains, rising 2,000 feet above the adjacent valley. So great was the pressure from beneath at the time the trachyte, which came up in a semi-fluid state, made its appearance, that the whole of the greenstone country became uplifted, and the line of contact between the greenstone and the syenite being the plane of least resistance, a great fissure was formed at that point, following the inclination of ancient Mount Davidson at an angle of 45 degrees, which is now known as the Comstock Lode. The greenstone conry, at the same time, became rent open in many other places, forming a number of mineral lodes or veins which will be cut before the Sutro Tunnel reaches the Comstock Lode. The trachyte conry being the last geological formation and having remained undisturbed since its formation, contains no mineral veins whatever. While we have annexed diagram before us, I will embrace the opportunity of saying a few words in regard to the Sutro Tunnel itself. It starts in at the point A, in Carson Valley, and running in a westerly direction, 4 miles, will cut the Comstock Lode at a perpendicular depth of 2,000 feet. In order to expedite the work, we started 4 shafts, marked number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, about 1 mile apart from each other. Shaft number 1 reached the tunnel level over 2 years ago and proceeded in each direction. The easterly drift of that shaft met the header of the tunnel, and so accurate were the surveys that the variation did not exceed a single inch.
So there you go. The Sutro Tunnel is being rebuilt by a team of volunteers generously giving their time out. And here's some photographs, nice photographs here. And how Ian's doing up there? Oh, well, we're trying our best, Evelyn. We're trying our best. The past weeks have been some of the wildest weather I've ever experienced. It seems like almost every week we're getting a windstorm. Some days it's snowing, and other days it is so humid like today. So just another day in Western Pennsylvania. Okay, I unmuted myself. So I got some field trips there. I want to look at the screen. I want to look at the screen. Looks like we got some miners there. Looks like they got raincoats on, so they're going down to work in the tunnel. And actually, look, the cars are still there. Some more images. This is just outside the tunnel. There's Adolf Sutro himself doing the first, he himself doing the ceremonial, I guess, first, drive into the mountainside. And there it gives a look inside what the tunnel would have looked like. It's not much to look at. It's a wooden frame, and then there would have been 2 rails going in either side. And there's the man himself. He ended up becoming the mayor of, was it? I mean, the mayor of Los Angeles. I believe it was Los Angeles or San Francisco, one or two. And there's like the Sutro baths out in that area. Oh, I know somebody's going to watch this and they're going to be from the area and they're going to be swinging their fist at me like, you don't know anything. I'm 3,000 miles on the other side of the country. But I want to give this group a shout out. They have been doing a really good effort. I've been following them on Instagram, watching the process. And I was super excited when I saw them building that turtle shell that they put down into the old tunnel. And what that was allowing them to do, essentially hold the rock from imploding on them as they put in the new beams. All right. Now, how can you support them? Well, there's a couple ways. First, you can shop Sutro. They got a few little merchandises for sale. Let's take a look down here. Oh, we got a hat. I'm always looking for a hat. 2020 free calendar. Friends of the Sutro Tunnel T-shirt. And you can also buy yourself memberships if you want to be really frisky, and they will thank you very much if you want to be a platinum membership. They also do bronze memberships. Sesquicentennial medallion. Oh, even you can get a nail from the tunnel itself. Those are always fun. I always like collecting, little metal workings. And there's some literature here. Another way, you could just outright donate. And the link to all the websites we'll be talking about, all the sites tonight, the links will be in the description below. So, yeah, consider donating. Help them rebuild the tunnel. Be a part of rebuilding the iconic and historic Sutro Tunnel. Have the name of your choice memorialized indefinitely in the historic Sutro Tunnel. All right. So that is the Sutro Tunnel. Oh, okay. I see R.A. Snow's there. Hold on one moment. Oh, yes. Yes. So this was an impromptu. The Queen of the Iron Age reached out to me right when I came home and asked if it was okay to come on the stream, and I said absolutely. So here she is, folks. Welcome to the stream.
How are you doing? Oh my gosh, you all are doing just killing it on this. I love history. I am so thrilled you're doing this. As soon as I saw your kepi the other night, I guess it was a kepi you had on. I couldn't really see the screen, but I was like, he's got a kepi hat on. Ah! Yeah, I know
Yep.
it.
I got the forge cap on. I don't have the kepi out
I,
today. The kepi's in storage.
no, congratulations on this. This is just fantastic. And actually, as a writer, I love history so much, and I love Texas history so much. I actually wrote it into my science fiction series that I have, and I actually made sure that I put in historical sites with the links in the back so people could donate, because keeping history alive is incredibly important. History shapes the future. And so having that out there and having the ability to be able to shout out these wonderful old sites and to keep these things going and to get people to write their own histories, this is incredibly important. So thank you so much for what you guys are doing. It is absolutely fantastic. And I wanted to give you just that little bit of support there, because a lot of times when we love history as much as we do, people kind of get glassy eyed. I don't know if you've ever done that, where you start talking to somebody about like some really, really obscure thing. You're like, and on this day, there was this guy and he walked down to the stream and it was so cool and everything. And then you talk about it and they just glaze over. They just don't care. And so find people who love it is just exciting. So thank you so much for letting me hop on here. That really made a difference for me. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. I was all excited when I'm like, oh, sure. My only concern was, hopefully this works.
Oh, no, you did good. It's me getting my tech done, because I actually get it on one side, then I have to switch over to my phone. I still don't have my studio really set up yet, so I'm just kind of basically in my bedroom. So I have to turn off all the air and everything so I don't.
I don't have the luxury of turning the highway off, sadly. I don't have that luxury.
It actually sounds really good. I'm not hearing a whole lot of background on you. So
Yeah, I grabbed these right before I went on the
uh-huh.
first weekly Wingit when Frequency Studios invited me on. I'm like, oh, I need something semi-decent. And I got these at Walmart. I think there was like Logitech. It's only $25. At least my Wally World carry it.
Oh,
So it seems to be a pretty good starter like microphone headset thing. Although I've kind of learned from the Quaff, I don't know if
oh,
you've ever seen the Quaff when he has the
oh
socks. I've understood why he does that.
yeah.
So that's where the hats came from.
No. It's great because because actually I've had the same issue. I've got a pair of my headset. Okay, mine is actually like a children's headset. It's like this. I'm a midget. Okay, so I'm actually not a midget. Maybe can we say that anymore? I don't even know. I'm like 4'11", so I'm sort of teeny tiny all over. So I have like get a lot of children's gear, but it's still, even though it's padded, it hurts right here. It's like it'll start bugging you. So the hats really do make a difference. And so I've started thinking, well, I should have a hat or something when I'm doing mine. But I've got my Blue Yeti that I've got mine because I need to be cutting my podcast. And it's just, I'm on a ranch. So every time I start to cut something, there's like a chicken will come and go right in the middle of me, recording. So I just like, for now, I don't even bother. I just get on my phone and do my thing. And then I'm like, okay, I'll get really cool later, and have all my stuff out. And then I'll look like a
Yeah.
YouTuber instead of just who I am, which is kind of me. So, but no. So tell me about, you got the trains. Now you said something about trains last night. You got all excited because
Trains!
I know trains. It's like, do you ever turn into a 5-year-old when you just like sit at the train and it comes by and all of a sudden like, train like that, and you just start like singing the song, blow your horn, and like you just singing. I've been working on the railroad, cool stuff. I love trains and I love train tracks. So I was really excited to see this the project that you were talking about. So show me some more cool stuff. You got another
Well, you mentioned about trains.
yes.
Let's see what I can do with doing this. If I hit this thing and the motorcycles fly past behind me.
Yay.
Yeah. The problem is I'm not too far from the Pennsylvania Turnpike, the world's most expensive toll road. And I
Yes.
think everybody avoids it. So they must either get off or get on the interchange that's not far from me. So they just cut right through.
Oh, well,
It was quiet 10 years ago, not now.
oh yeah.
All right. There we go. Should be sharing there. So I just saw this. For once, the algorithm actually did something nice and popped this into my feed from
Ah,
the Arkansas Railroad Museum. Now, the Arkansas Railroad Museum, they preserve the only steam locomotive shops that were built in the state of Arkansas. So they only ever had one, surprisingly. And they're open Thursday through Saturdays in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And we'll go very briefly through their roster. I think they have 4 steam locomotives, and I think they have 4 or 5 diesel locomotives, and they have some other amounts of rolling stock.
oh
Uh,
nice.
their their pride and joy is the last steam locomotive built in the state of Arkansas.
Really?
Yes, they have the last one. I'm not sure if it's 819 here. It says the official steam locomotive of the state of Arkansas, so that might be it.
Ah,
We'll scroll through. They also have SSW engine 336. And then this is some of their diesel locomotives. Okay, so it must be 2 steam locomotives, then 4 or 5 diesels. But they have a really small but really nice collection. And I was watching a few videos, and it seems like they got a really good volunteer staff. Now, the reason we're talking about them, they just acquired. Oh, we got to go way back to the start. They just acquired this.
oh, that's a sweet little thing.
So we're gonna play the video, and essentially the Arkansas Railroad Museum just ended up in possession of this interesting caboose, and I'll explain why it's interesting.
I love
They're
it.
currently looking for funds to transport it to the museum. That's their big mission.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, I haven't shared did the screen not share? Oh no.
Oh no, no, no. I was sitting here thinking I just didn't hear it. I'm actually putting your YouTube on my Twitter so that way
No,
people can see it.
no.
That way they'll come and say howdy. 'Cause we're
That's
talking.
great. I got to figure out why it ain't sharing the screen. Let's try that again, folks.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's try that again. Okay. Okay, I think I know what happened. I was sharing it through the tab. I guess if you go
Ah,
from one tab to the other, you can't
yeah.
do that. You can't do that. So
Yeah,
you guys are probably wondering, what was I talking about? I was looking at a screen. All right,
you
does
were
that look better?
there at that beautiful, beautiful train we're called.
Let's go back a little bit. So I'm not going to replay the whole way through, but this is the caboose we were talking about. You might notice it's very long, and there's
Yes.
a reason for it, and that's what makes it
Yeah.
unique. So let's get inside.
Sleeper? Is it got actually got a sleeper cabin in it?
He's at work. When PJ&S was in service, they were using this car to do their excursions. Seats, window seals.
So this is what makes it interesting. This caboose, of course, caboose. I don't think that's actually the plural, but I will use it. Caboose were used by railroads for many years. Essentially, it held the rail crew, the conductor who were at the tail end of the locomotive, and it was how they were able to signal to the front before you had all of your computers. So it was a living quarters for the rail crew. What's unique is this is both a living quarters for the rail crew, and it is also an excursion car, like a coach, a passenger coach. So
Wait,
there are passenger seats in the caboose.
what year?
Everything.
What
What?
year? Do we know?
Uh, if I think he said probably I'd probably guess it's probably 1920s. This seems like something they would have done during the Great Depression.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at that. There's a certain construction style to it that looks like it's post 20s. Look at
No, the
those
heater
armrests.
does work, and the good old bathroom, straight down to nowhere,
Yeah, you ain't gonna be using that for a while.
which was typical. I've inquired with several trucking companies about trying to get this caboose moved to the museum. Haven't had a lot of success. Issue is funding, money, and it only needs to go from Whitehall to Pine Bluff. Height is not an issue. The cupola would have to come off, which is designed where it will come off.
Yeah, I can see. It just
won't be
looks
a
like
problem. Have to put new bearings in it because people rob the bearings out of all the journals. Figure.
Oh yeah.
And also, the owner has informed me that he has the siding to go on the side of the caboose. So when and if we can ever get it over to the museum, we'll have us a really nice, neat, unique caboose that we can add
Skunk's
to our
Workshop.
rolling stock.
He loves this land. There's
And
other,
if not,
other
hopefully in
rolling
the
stock
future,
on this property.
use it to run our own little
You
excursions.
just saw the box cars over there.
Be perfect for loading kids, family, even wheelchair accessible folks to the side right there at the freight door.
It's got that big old freight door on the side. Here's how much are they asking right now to get this thing down the road? Because they're gonna have to load it obviously onto a tractor.
Yes, I had it pulled up earlier. Let me go to Hate Book. Yeah, I know. I'm just looking at the Hate Book. That's what I call it, the Hate Book. It's on Facebook. It's the Hate Book. Arkansas Railroad Museum. There was a comment. That's why I want to go back and check.
If you're looking
Okay, they're asking for 3,500. That's the price quota.
That's not bad. That's your comparatively, because I've seen at house movers, it'll be like $10,000 to move something down the road. 3,000 is doable if they can just get it. So they're just only taking it down the road a little ways, and they just pull off of there and make sure they don't get it busted on the way.
Yeah, I don't know the exact distance, but from what the guy sounds in the video, it's not that far. It's not an unreasonable drive, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and if we look at it, this thing is like what, about 8 to 10 feet wide? Is that right?
Roughly.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're basically, it's like moving a trailer. So if you can just get that $3,000, you can get that thing down the road. You'll be able to put it right on in there.
And this is what they also posted. This is on the Facebook, the Hate Book I'm reading. I hope to just be able to wheel the car right onto the trailer. As long as the height of the car stays under 17 feet, which the caboose is, we won't need a pole car. Still work has to be done on the front and rear and an escort per Arkansas DOT, Department of Transportation law. We want to have an oversized permit for sure. So the real thing is they need to get the permit, and they just need to find a trucking company that's just willing to do it. That isn't scared away from what looks like to be the thing is the exterior looks rough, but as you saw in the video, the interior is really good. It's really good.
Awesome. I would actually say that if they can't get it, look at a house moving company. It's possible they can go at it. Anybody who moves trailers can move this thing. It's just getting it up on that. It's getting it up on the rig, of course, and you've got some probably some tie down consideration. Yeah. But I think that if they can't get one to do it, get a house moving company with trailers because they move stuff like that all the time down here. I mean,
this is such a unique caboose. I've never seen one that is also functioning as a passenger coach, which makes me believe this is definitely Depression era or right before the Depression.
Yeah, I think we're looking at probably 1930s forward, just because I'm looking at the construction of the. I can looking at the construction of the handrail, that armrests on it. It looks like a post 30s, between 30s and 1950s, probably, I would say.
What's interesting too is from here, and I'm looking, it doesn't even look like it was initially. It looks like it was originally like the body of it's a passenger coach that they just modified.
I'll bet you $1 they did that. Look at the shape on that the cupola. I'm thinking most of mine that I knew. I'm trying to remember. They actually had the gabled roofs for a while on the cabooses, and this almost looks like you're saying it's like a curved. If I'm seeing it right, I'm looking at it on my phone, so I can't really see it. It looks like it's a curved roof. Is that right?
It's not just a curve, it's just very long. It's longer than a typical caboose. It's not
Yeah,
a bobber caboose, which is your classic, the cupola's in the middle and a,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. That
nice little.
it looks almost. You're right. I think it actually is probably a modified passenger car, and that would make it extraordinarily unique. And it may have been actually modified in the factory itself. They probably had an order, and they're like, "We want this, and we want it for our crew," and they just went ahead and took that passenger car and went ahead and worked it in the factory to be the caboose for the rail crew. And this would have been what line would this have been? Is this the this would be Southern what? Because I'm thinking that it's probably the Cotton Belt or something like that. Oops, I just lost your audio, sweetheart. I am not hearing a thing.
I was muted.
There.
Uh, it says PJS Railroad. I believe it's a much smaller operation, or it was in Arkansas. It's definitely a railroad for Arkansas. It's not a
Cool.
multi-state one. So it's definitely a piece of Arkansas history. Now, I was twiddling around with their website trying to see if they had a link just to raise the funds for the caboose. They don't necessarily, it doesn't seem like they have one yet. So the best way you could probably support them is by going to their website. They do have
Yeah.
a donation tab. It's just a general donation to the museum. I think they'll probably connect the dots.
Found that they'll have something where you can actually put a note on it for this thing.
Yes.
Goes in for you, and you let them know, hey, saw you on, and they tell them to go ahead and put on there that they saw it on Readout Productions, that you were shouting this out, and that lets them know that they actually are now internet famous and should should take it.
I'm trying to keep internet unfamous. I'm trying to keep right under that radar. Big enough that I can make an impact, but small enough that the feds don't come for me.
There you go.
That's the life we all live.
That's the life we're all living now. That's true. Yeah, it's a perfect little just a perfect little caboose. And in fact, what is the gauge on this thing? This is regular
Standard gauge.
standard gauge. Okay, yeah. So you actually now I'm thinking that if you've ever been to the Rusk, Texas train, we have the Texas train, which is the oh geez, it just escaped me the name of it. On Rusk, Texas, beautiful little train, and it has also a lot of the smaller uh, like types of trains and all the cars and stuff. And I just love the smaller gauges too. And so I think that this is just a perfect little representation of a caboose. It's still got some of that original color, which makes me happy. I still miss cabooses. I go and I watch, and here's how old I am. So I actually remember when we did have cabooses, and I would see them on the trains as they would go by. So I always miss the caboose when it shoots on by and I don't even get to see it. It makes me.
There's one yard. It's up in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. There's a CSX has a rail yard,
Oh yeah.
and believe it or not, a caboose is still living there and is still used by CSX. Usually, it's used on their secondary line. They only go it up and down once a week. So some days it's up in the Johnstown yard. Then other days I find down in Myersdale, Pennsylvania, way farther south. So they must use it on local trains still. I think it's because they have it equipped with, I think they have an air horn in there now in case they're pushing backwards. They can legally do it because they
Oh
have somebody in the front. So there are a few cabooses out there. Caboose. We're gonna make
yeah.
that. I'm Urban Dictionary. Make it happen. That they still use them for that reason. So yes, and the link is in the description below to go to the Arkansas Railroad Museum, and you can go donate. It's down there in the description. So we have one more we'll go through in one moment, but so just want to ask here, how's the writing coming along?
Well, actually, I'd been writing last night. I was up really late. I stayed up. I'm two books into the second series. Usually, when I write the full series. For instance, I wrote the first series, which is Watcher the Damn Watcher, and wrote the whole series all at once. Actually, then I could publish it usually every 2 months or so as each book comes out and gets edited, publishes, and we have all the illustrations and the maps and everything that are in there, along with all of the citations for all the historical sites. Because one of the things that we did, we actually put our Google Maps in and we looked at historic sites in the county, because I actually put this in Texas. So we have a lot of Texas history in it. And so I actually pulled up a lot of these historical sites and cite them in the back of the book. So I have to do all of this map work. And that's part of how because we're actually sort of like Texas 1880s if it had mutants and chupacabras and a few ray guns. So we're riding horses in certain portions of it, and we have to figure out how long it takes to get from point A to point B. So I'm doing that again, which is actually really exciting. In fact, I was just doing some of the history work for mine and have an upcoming historical site that we're going to be doing, which is actually two of them, Confederate Reunion Ground, which is a wonderful site here in Limestone County. And then the first Juneteenth historical site, which is also here in Limestone County, is private.
That's right, Texas Juneteenth.
And it's actually real. Everybody's like, "Oh, that's made up." No, it's a huge part of our local history. And in fact, we consider the first, of course, the announcement was made in Galveston, but the first real Juneteenth celebration takes place here in Limestone County. And the families that started that still have that piece of land and they still operate it. And we've been trying to raise funds for them. And of course, you just have to sort of send it in through a PayPal link. But it's a great little piece of history out here. So I'm writing that into the book. So I'm trying to make sure I get all of my facts right, because one of the things we forget when we're writing these pieces of history into our own works, we want to talk to the people who have been involved with it. We don't want to ever assume something like, oh, this is an old building and nobody's taking care of it. Or no, maybe it's being preserved in the original state because they don't want to redo everything. Maybe it's, being kept that way. And you have pictures on the walls and people's stories. And you treat history as more than just something to look back on. It is a living spirit of the people who were there and the things that took place. And especially when we're talking about stuff like trains and buildings and things, these objects take on a life of their own. Literally, you cannot look at a train and not think there's a spirit on this thing of some kind, this movement of metal and machine and the men and the women on it that make it run. And the fact that there's this coming together of all of these elements to create what in the olden times would have been considered a monster or a dragon of some kind. It has its own element of spirituality that you really have to capture by going and knowing what this thing is, seeing it in person. You can't just imagine it. You have to see these things and touch these things to really know. And that's one of the most important things I like about your channel, is because I'm watching you do this and you're going in and you're talking about it, laying your hands on it, and actually making it real. It's not just something that you're doing from a position of, oh, well, I want to, just discuss this from a casual standpoint. You're getting your hands dirty, getting into the history. And I love that about it. So I've been using that, actually sort of that inspiration to write this next section, because I have to go through a couple of spots in the county and I've got to age that history another several. I'm not going to, it's a spoiler, but how old it's in near future, to sort of within the next 200 years. And I have to age those buildings. And it's really tough. You look at our history and we keep up certain sites and other sites we don't. And going in and aging that history, adding another couple of 100 years to it, and having the ruins of it. How do you find it? How do you discover it? When you're walking through the temples of the Mesoamerican areas, and you're come upon these sites, they actually haven't been there that long. Some of them have only been a couple of 100 years. See them and they're growing up. And the same thing happens here. Philly and Pittsburgh are wonderful places to explore because they have the same thing. You go in and there's a piece of a house or something that's back on a lot that you didn't even know was there. And when you walk up on it, it's like finding an ancient temple.
Well, let's not get too far. Let's not give Philly too much credit. Now, Pittsburgh, we can give all sorts of credit in the world, but of course, Philadelphia has equal amount of history as Pittsburgh.
No. Pittsburgh's got, I love, one of my favorite things is the industrial age. And people forget these ghosts of the industrial age, seeing those old factories and the equipment inside. There's something about putting your hands on anything that was.
And just coming back.
My father was an iron worker, and I love the act of people building and creating. And so we forget that near history, the ones from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, that may not seem that far away to some people, but those factories and stuff, Pittsburgh is so rich in that kind of stuff. And there's so much of it that really is unexplored because people have just sort of, they sort of pass it off. But those factories and stuff, they're every bit as exciting as a Mesoamerican temple to me. They're so full of equipment and boards that have been left up with the schedules on them, things like that. It's just fun to look at it.
No, and what you said before we head to our final preservation shout out for the night. what you said about steam locomotives being almost a living, breathing thing. A lot of people in the history community, myself, of course, included, always say it's the closest humans have ever come to create a living being creature that's not actually human, more so than artificial intelligence, because you have to feed it. You have to feed it fuel, be it coal, be it oil, be it wood, to keep it alive. It needs water to survive because it's a steam locomotive. Steam's from boiling water, and you have to take care of it to make sure that it keeps in function. But as long as you do those things, it could survive perpetually, because we have some steam locomotives, because we've had fantastic crews that have taken care of them for over 100 years, that are still around today and are able to either be a piece of living history. Well, they are a piece of living history. They could take people around on a passenger excursion, or they can be in a museum and let people experience what it was like to be in the past. I just said the same thing. You get my point. You get my point.
Yeah, and only that, but we forget when you actually ride them, which is important. You should get on the train to ride it, to feel the fact it actually has a heartbeat. When you're going down the track,
Yes.
it actually breathes, and you could hear it breathing. Comes up, and the steam comes out of those big giant iron wheels, and everything's going around and around, but you move in a rhythm to the heartbeat, which is the reason why, much like and we listen to music of that era. We listen to music, for instance, of earlier eras, where the hoof beats and the heartbeats are common, that we've lost those elements that have been around for thousands of years. But the element of the locomotive and its entrance into music, and the fact that it imitates the heartbeat so well, that rhythm is part of that experience. If you have not yet ridden a steam train, you need to do it, because it is just an experience that you will never forget. You're right about that. It does have a spirit, and it takes everything to keep it going. It is literally like a living, breathing animal.
Indeed. Now, we got Billy Bob Sack. Hi, Billy. He's in the comments tonight. Uh, taking 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 problems with the forge cap. He always does. So, but he brings up, since he's been going after the forge cap, I am a besides being into railroads, probably my biggest passion is military history, particularly the American Civil War. And for our final talk tonight, I'm actually going to shout out somebody who's been supporting this channel for a very long time. That is Daz, aka Darren Rawlin, aka the American Civil War and UK History channel. And what he has ended up getting involved with, now he didn't create what we're about to talk about, but he is now part of promoting it. That is what is called the Monumental Project. So hit the share. We're going to do this thingy. We'll do that thingy. The Monumental Project. Yeah, I didn't mute myself. Hooray! So this is the Monumental Project. It's a monument for UK veterans of the American Civil War. So these are for Union soldiers, and I believe if there were a few Confederates as well. I don't truly know too much on the migration back to the United Kingdom after the war, but any American Civil War veteran who ended up in the United Kingdom after the war and is now buried in the United Kingdom, this non-for-profit organization has gotten together and they want to erect a monument to those veterans that are now buried in the United Kingdom. This is what the plaque will look like. This is the proposed location of it. And there's again the plaque again. And it gives a nice little in remembrance of the men and women of the United Kingdom who served in the American Civil War.
Good job.
Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism of avarice or neglect, nor ravages of time testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. If other eyes grow dull, other hands slack, and other hearts cold in the solemn trust, ours shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remain with us. There's a few other photos.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, I know Daz has been very big in promoting this. And I'm hoping someday if I can get Daz on or somebody with the actual association, I'd love to do an interview with them so we can really give a I can give them a proper due without me ranting and rambling like a maniac. But one, the people, for example, we have Sister of Mercy, Mary Gertrude Ledwith. The monument would recognize people like her. She was born in Ireland in 1821, died in 1910. She's buried in Alnwick Cemetery. At the outbreak of the war, the call went out for skilled nurses to care for wounded soldiers, and the Sisters of Mercy answered, staffing hospitals in both the North and South. Four of the sisters included Mary Augustine McKenna, Mary Gertrude Ledwith, Mary Vincent Sweetman, and Claire Galvin. Sisters of Mercy gained the gratitude of the nation for their work in the Civil War, both in hospitals and on the battlefield. Their service was conspicuous on such battlefields, recalled author George Barton in his book, Angels of the Battlefield. So it's not just soldiers that are buried, it's also nurses that helped out those soldiers. That'll
Yeah.
be commemorated at this monument.
We don't think of it that way, but actually, modern nursing, this heart and soul of modern nursing, really is born out of the American Civil War. And as much as the American Red Cross becomes a global thing, it was that start, the fact that they got out on the battlefields, they literally put their hands to the dying and to the wounded, and create out of that the spirit of the modern nurse. And something a lot of people don't know about me, one of the things that I am so passionate about Civil War is because I'm actually only 2 generations away from it. As a lot of my listeners and fans already know, I'm actually 60 years old. I'm 60, like with a 6 and a 0. And I was born late to my parents. My parents had me when they were almost 40 years old. My father was born to his father, who was 40 years old. As a result, my great grandfather fought in the Civil War. Um, I have that link of actually being able to talk to somebody who talked to someone who was fought in the Civil War. And so to be able to say, yes, I had this conversation with my grandmother, and she remembered when, as a Southern woman, what it was like. It's insane because people don't have that. Um,
200, oh,
history.
my apologies. 160 years is not a long time ago. 160 years is not long.
Yeah, and but it's very rare now to meet somebody who actually has that generational touch to say I knew somebody who knew someone who fought in the Civil War, and it's harder and harder to find them. And so there is that difference in knowing, for instance, that my grandfather fought in the Illinois Ninth, and I also had people on the southern side as well who fought. One who would go on later to become a person who would start teaching the African Americans who had been freed school, actually taught school in Texas, and got a lot of grief for it. Actually, went sideways with the KKK, and the KKK came after my family because they were teaching. And so there's that history there of being able to actually talk about it and connect with that. And I think we're kind of losing that somewhat. I want people to really go out and talk to their parents, to their grandparents, if they can, and ask them, who did they know, who did they connect with in their childhood, who may have seen these historic things take place, who may have seen someone who fought in the Second World War, or may have known about it in their family. There may be letters, there may be something out there. Let's get those letters and those pictures and things and start putting them aside and put them in books where we can talk about our personal histories, because that is the true history of any country, is actually the everyday common man and woman and their experiences during those times. And if we can get people connected that way, that would be fantastic.
Indeed, it's there's you take these history I guess you want to say you take history for granted, like, oh, my grandfather fought in this conflict, oh yeah, you just take it for granted, and more often than not people don't actually reach out and document what their ancestors went through until it's too late. Then you wish, oh, I really wish I had all that
Yeah.
information. I know many people like that. Now I'm very blessed that I got into history at a young age, so I immediately began pestering my grandfather about his time in Vietnam. Now, he wasn't actually in Vietnam, the physical country. He served in the Navy during that conflict, but he's told me some stories. He's told me the story of the USS Fresher. He was actually within um, radar range, or radio range of actually getting to hear the
Wow.
incident occur. He didn't realize it at the time what he said, but he's like, but later on, I added up what the date was, what the time was. Like, I kind of put two and two together, what was happening, and it kind of left him in the dark at the time. Like, you
Wow.
don't even know. You don't even know that when we just lost the first nuclear submarine in the U.S. Navy. That was the first time it had happened in the U.S. Navy to lose a nuclear sub.
Oh yeah.
But I want to say. I remember watching a former Confederate soldier doing that interview. Redoubt, you probably know which one I'm talking about. Well, there are several. There were a few that survived to the 50s, but there are documented interviews with some of the last veterans. And they are definitely something to listen into. They're definitely, it's so weird. You're watching this on TV and it's like, this guy, he was in the Civil War. He went through all of this. It's living proof. There's a very eerie audio recording. I think it was from the 1938 reunion, the big one at Gettysburg. And if not, it was around the same time period. And essentially, they got enough Confederate veterans together to reproduce the rebel yell as best as they could. I mean, their voices were very gravelly, but it's like the only official recording of the rebel yell as it would have been, or to some capacity.
We forget that this is actually these are human beings that we're talking about, and so we have a tendency to think institutional, but that just hearing the voices of people, whether and yes, this is two sides that are very diametrically opposed. There's a lot of history with this, but we forget about the fact that these are people that come back together. And in fact, one of my favorite stories about the Civil War actually takes place afterwards, and it is the first Gettysburg reenactment. And you've probably heard about this, where at the first Gettysburg reenactment, they're doing Pickett's Charge. And this is not just people that are doing it because they want to glorify war. These are men who have PTSD, who have never come to grips with some of the wounds and the things that they saw. And on both sides, we have the Northern soldiers and the Southern soldiers, and they're reenacting this charge and this trauma that comes over. Because if you've ever loved someone who has PTSD that's been in the military, and we are a military family, a veteran family, and I've lived with people who have dealt with PTSD all my life. I was the daughter of a World War II veteran. And as men came forward and they rushed each other, they embraced. As men started weeping and just fell on their knees on the ground, and the North and the South came together and put their arms around each other to try to help each other heal from this great wound of the heart of America. We don't see them that way, because we hear about armies and we see just the uniform. But when you hear about the stories told in their own voices, the people who were there, the ones who saw it with their own eyes, and you realize these are men who felt and hurt just like we do. That's the history we want to talk about. Not just the great battle as it happened, but the battle afterwards, the battle of the hearts and souls of these people. And when you hear that, that's the full military history. That's the entirety of it, is this, the encapsulation of what it really meant to go through this as a nation. And to see it end like that, with the embrace of love, of brother to brother, finally, after all those years. And it took a long time. But
Indeed.
That's the history that we need to speak, and the history we need to preserve. And what you guys are doing on this channel is doing that. You're literally telling these stories and getting a whole new generation involved with it. And that's amazing.
Well, before we conclude on the monumental project, I want Daz himself to speak briefly. This came out a few months back in March. Just came out back in March. And this is just when they recently located an unmarked grave in Folkestone, Kent.
Town of Folkestone in Kent today, and that is down to the work of Gina. So Gina has done lots of research, and she's managed to find two in my hometown. One up the road in a place called Cheriton, and this one is actually in Folkestone in a cemetery called Cheriton Cemetery, and it's right in the middle of town basically. But anyway, I've managed to find this guy. It's taken me a little while. Thanks to the interactive maps of Cheriton Cemetery, I've managed to find his plot, and his name is Henry Harrell, and he was in the 22nd New York Cavalry, and I'm going to show you. So there we have it. Completely unmarked. Like I said, very tricky to find, but thankfully down to the fact that they have a very good interactive map. It took me a little while, but I worked it out eventually. The monuments of UK veterans of the American Civil War, our aim is to get all of these guys headstones. So guess what? Henry Harrell is going to get a headstone, and he's going to have a dedication in the near future. Anyway, please, if you want to donate to Monuments of UK Veterans of the American Civil War, you can do that, because we do need your donations to carry on our work. Obviously, our main goal is to have that main monument in the cemetery in London, but also we want to get headstones for all of these guys out here. So please, if you're feeling generous, please help us out. We do have a dedication coming up at the end of April, so watch this space. It will be live streamed, and that is coming from the same cemetery that George Denham and our other dedications have taken place. Anyway, see you all again soon. Cheers.
Believe it or not, Daz is actually an American Civil War reenactor in the United Kingdom. He is part of a United Kingdom-based reenacting group.
Oh, that is so awesome.
There are people over in the United Kingdom, in Europe, commemorating the American Civil War in a manner I would do similarly. It's so weird thing about that. People reenacting an American war, but in Europe. But it isn't too weird because we reenact things like the French and Indian War, which was the British and the French fighting each other here in Western Pennsylvania. So it's just it's like, oh yeah, I guess it goes both ways. But yes, the Monumental Project, Monument for the UK veterans, the American Civil War. Not only they want to get a big monument, we showed the photos of that's going to be dedicated in the one cemetery in London. They also have been getting stones from the United States, the regular U.S. Stones you see for American Civil War veterans, and have them being put on the graves throughout the United Kingdom. They've been doing dedications for the past couple years. It's been awesome. So if you want to support the monuments of the veterans of the American Civil War Association, their link is in the description below. The donation link will be within that link tree, and you can donate directly to their project. They've been doing a wonderful job. It's something that not a lot of people know about in the United Kingdom, and not a lot of people know about the United States. So this is something that definitely needs to be shouted out. Spread the word, because these soldiers, even though they're 1,000 miles away from the battlefields they fought, they deserve the same treatment that any American veteran would get here in the country, here in the United States.
It's fantastic, and I love hearing him talk about it. Just his excitement, you can feel that. That's like,
Oh yeah, I've always found fun. I've always found interesting. I messaged him one time when we started messaging me and Daz, and I asked like, so what got you into American Civil War? I'm so just curious. I never thought somebody from the United Kingdom would take such an interest. And he said, oh, I watched the movie Gettysburg, and I'm like, no shit. It's like, oh, that's this. Okay, it's a story of all of us. Then you watch the 1993 movie of Gettysburg, and next thing you know, you're in Union wool or Confederate wool, depending on your take, and then you're blowing all of your paychecks on very expensive equipment.
that's
Yeah.
right. It's one of the biggest things. Actually, I love watching the reenactments, and actually, I've tried to do a few of them. But it's getting the equipment together because you want to look right, and it's so embarrassing to be out there and you're like, oh, I just put a dress on, and there's like these people, and they're in perfect, absolutely perfect reenactment gear. And I used to do a lot of camping, and so we would have the Boy Scouts come out at our local reenactment, which is just down the road at Fort Parker, and we just do a reenactment. We didn't have a battle there; we just have fun and all dress up. And it's so serious. You have to have it just right. So I'm like, so I don't have that kind of money, so I haven't really done the reenactments yet. I like to go and watch and just report on it, but they do such a fantastic job, and to go so far as to make all of the outfits perfect down to being homespun and everything. It takes extraordinary dedication, but it's really important too. It actually comes into the story a little bit in my Watcher the Dam series, because when people have to recreate conditions that are like that, we find out why our ancestors did those things. Homespun wasn't considered to be backwards. It was how you did the act. It was actually a great cloth, and it has its own unique properties, and working with it's different than working with machine spun fabrics. So when you see these reenactors and they have this just incredible outfit on, it is living history. There's a reason they're as dedicated as they are to it. And yes, it is a giant money pit. And so unless you can do it all yourself, and then it becomes but it's worth it. It's the passion of
The group I'm with, and many groups are like this, they will help you out. They will already have some equipment ready. They want you to be there, so they don't want to just send you out to drown. Like, yep, you need all this, have fun. No, a good reenacting group will help you get the equipment. They will have loaner equipment until you're ready to get your own equipment. So they want you to be there. So that's always the telltale sign you're in a good group, if they're willing to say, hey, this is what we're requiring, but until then, this Jim's going to give you this, and Brian's going to give you that, and John's going to give you this, and Adam's going to give you, they'll get you over for this summer.
Well, and then I realized that actually this is how the soldiers did it. They didn't come on the back. They just, hey, we got our stuff. They shared with each other. They had to. There was, you getting your equipment together was a big deal. And so that kind of passion in recreating something. We actually have a Western shooter club that does Western shooting reenactment.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, pew, pew, and it's another big factor in my series. And all those historic elements, and the same thing happens where you have well, how did they get this equipment? How did they? A lot of times you made it yourself. Learning how to tool leather is a huge part. Most of us who are in the reenactment business, we love to make our own things, and so we a lot of times you'll see something and you love it, and it's like, oh, I can't afford that. You get your little set at first, and then there's that one piece that you're just dying for, and you're like, I can't afford that. So you start trying to make it. By the time you get finished, you become really good at something, and you realize my ancestors had to go through this. How did they actually manage to have babies and a house and to keep people fed and still make this kind of stuff? It's just mind boggling. And so it really helps you when you do these reenactments and you go through and you make those clothes, you make the equipment, you get a real hands on effect of what it means to have lived in the era.
I I can't put any better, folks. The Queen of the Iron Age has spoken. You've heard it here. I can't compete. I can't do this stuff. But no, it's all true. It's all true. Now we're gonna start winding down here because we're at the hour mark. And another reason is John A. Douglas is having his offer outpost tonight. So I want to make sure that should be the link. I know it's not very glamorous, but that should be the link down there in the comments. Johnny Douglas is doing another offer outpost tonight, so be sure when we wrap up here to head over and support Johnny Douglas. He's always supporting creators. And because I've always joked whenever I come on to Drink with Crazy stream, or if I end up on Wrangler stream, and I always joke like, so I'm the black sheep. I don't necessarily have much in the way of a fictional world I'm developing or some story, but I do believe it's all linked. Getting good stories out there, preserving our history, I feel it's all linked. I've went on a rant a few weeks ago on a live. That's actually what made us a weekly live stream,
Yeah.
where I basically said our culture is not doing too well right now, and you can take that as it will. Am I talking about the culture in Western Pennsylvania, the culture in the United States, the culture in the world? You'd probably say yes to all three. But I don't think it necessarily means that we're all gonna fall off the cliff and die, and we might as well just crawl into a corner and get the bottle of beer out and start going down to that. No, no. But I do believe we have the possibility for a cultural renaissance. And that renaissance is going to happen not by us hoping that our overlords give us the information, that they don't finally find the error of their ways. We have to, as independent creators, get this information out here. So in a sense, I like listening. I want to buy these books. I want to watch these new independent animated creations. And likewise, I want to be able to tell these people about all these unknown parts of our past. Perhaps it will inspire your own storytelling, or it'll just inspire you to do something better in your life, something improve on something like, hey, if these people can do it, I can do it too. So I like to that's why I want to live, preserve, and explore history. So hopefully you guys can learn about these stories and it can inspire you so to hopefully not do nasty things. Yeah,
Well,
that's yeah. I'm not a speaker. I edit and record hours on end the same script, and eventually it sounds okay for a C+.
Well, I want you to consider yourself, you are a subversive historian. You are telling the stories others will not tell. You are telling the story of the common man and common woman, what they did and how they struggled to get there. So much of history is being redacted. It is being revised by the revisionists, the arbiters of those who would take over everything. And they want to erase this history. You are going to keep it alive. And not only that, but you're going to make it thrive. And you're going to help those of us who are writing stories with history in it to write them better, which means I'm going to be picking your brain later because I'm probably going to pull you in as a consultant for me on a couple of
Oh
pieces.
God. I've heard that for the past couple days about being pulled in to be a consultant, a project. Like, no, no, I'm scared to put my seal on something. It's like
Too
I'm still a student of history, but I guess everybody's never a master of history. They're always a student of
Yeah, you're
history.
going to have greatness will be thrust upon you. I'm sorry.
All right, I guess so. Except the food. Nobody wants the food. What? Except the food. Nobody. What do you mean the food? What food are you talking about? Pierogies are good. If you're talking about Pittsburgh
Awesome.
food,
Yes.
and pierogies are good. So Well, I would like to thank you, R.H. Snow, for coming on. You definitely have helped. Uh, it, you've helped. See, I am speechless now. This is what happens at the hour mark. I just start. You have definitely helped make this definitely a stream to remember. You've definitely brought on some points. You've definitely helped me uh, explain some why it's important to live, preserve, and explore history. And also, hopefully, we have both succeeded in shouting out some of these preservation efforts across the world. And we can the uncut history how it normally works in the past. It's been me telling like some history. Like last week, I did the Battle of Shiloh. I talked about the Hornets Nest of Shiloh. So usually, I pick like this is an anniversary coming up. Let's talk about it. Then I'll save the shout out for the end. But if you guys want me to turn this into a bi-weekly or almost weekly, turn uncut history into doing preservation shout outs, because believe me, there are hundreds of thousands of preservation efforts occurring right now that all deserve to be spotlighted. So I will be more than happy to do it weekly. Just let me know what you want me to do with Uncut History. It's a live broadcast, so it's very malleable. It's what you guys want. But before we finish off, RH Snow, how can our chat support you tonight?
Thank you so much for asking. First of all, by supporting this channel, make sure that you help read out here. Watch him. Subscribe. Click on that like button. Secondly, you can find me at watcherthedam.com. Also, if you put in flow.page/RH Snow, that's flow.page/RH Snow, that takes you to all of my links that I have there. And you'll see my my history series, which is a lot of it's about Texas history. Watcher the Damned, the series, which has 3 epic arcs. There will be Watcher the Damn Watcher, which is already out and complete, and you can buy all 6 books on Amazon. You can also, and it comes in physical and in digital. And I'm working on the Audible right now, and we do have a mini series in the podcast that we have created, like a little radio show for the first 9-10 episodes.
Did somebody say podcast?
Yes, there's actually we're actually going to start the Audible coming up pretty soon. So I've got that out there, and we have our YouTube channel that you can also hop in and see me there. But look at the series, because it so clearly illustrates why history is important, why it inspires. And in dark times, people need the light of those who have lived before us to spread through us and to help us fight for the right to be free. And if you want to be free and you want to be able to express that in such a way as we remember that the great minds of the great hearts of the past don't die. They stay on alive in their words, learn their words. And so if you read the series, Watcher the Damned, you'll find a lot of that in there, and a lot about Texas history, the Alamo, and the lives of Texans who have struggled to be free ever since then. That's at flow.page/RH Snow. And thank you so much for letting me come on here and talk. That was just sweet. If you ever want me on again, I love history. So
if you ever want back on and you're available, typically this is going to be on Thursdays. May or not change. Who knows? But at this moment, it's on Thursdays. I'll be more than happy to have you on. And if there's anybody else who wants to come on here and talk about history, just reach out to me. My email's all lowercase, readoutproductions1754@gmail.com. You can find that through the main channel. And if you're on Drink with Crazies Gilded, of course, you can reach out to me that way. So, well, you folks know what that means. We are going to play When Johnny Comes Marching Home Again.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming to the stream. Thank you, RH Snow, for joining us tonight. We are going to let When Johnny Comes Marching Home play us out. Remember, this was recorded live in front of a studio audience. Just kidding, no, it was on the fly. Keep my head. Yeah, it's all YouTube will allow me to use. Go to John A. Douglas's stream now.